I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to understand the inner psychology of your mind and manifest your reality doing it. Now, I want you to keep in mind that I'm not a certified psychologist. The certification that I do have in this moment is a certification of human development coach. I've had at least 2,000 hours of coaching with people. And so all I'm going to be sharing with you in this video is some things that I've come to realize about how the mind works, how you can use this understanding of how your mind works to help you to accomplish your goals and the things that you truly desire in your life. So if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. Now, the thing that I want to start off with is to understand that most people think that this is new age, that this is hocus pocus, that this is some crazy new age idea and it's like too spiritual. But what I'm going to share with you right now, I believe, is actually the very nature of being a human. It's the very nature of being a human. And what I want to show this video with is the understanding that what you think about, you will simply become. Right? What you think about, you become. You ever heard of like the quote where like the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most, you will become like those people? It's true. But how does that sort of pendulum and vortex of energy, a collective energy of people, how does that even form to begin with? It's when multiple people are thinking at a similar energetic frequency. So the key is to understand that when you start to think about a certain type of behavior, a certain type of identity, when you're starting to embody some kind of archetype, some kind of person into your consciousness, because all these different identities and like archetypes and ways of being, they all exist. And you can tap into any of these sort of identities and archetypes at any single moment. And when you start to think about a certain type of archetype, instantly what begins to happen is that your consciousness, your very being, will start to transform into that. Now, of course, when you start to think about that, all the old energy starts to come up. And then what most people do is they immediately they have so much momentum not being in control of their frequency and their vibration. They don't even allow themselves to build enough momentum to prove this to be the case in their life. So as soon as they start thinking about what they want to become, all the old programming comes up, and because that has such a strong pull, they just dismiss what you think about you will become as a new age concept, when in fact it is more natural and it is in your very nature, in my personal experience, that affirming and thinking about who you prefer to be and transforming into that moment to moment is actually your very nature. It's your natural state. But the thing is that somewhere along your journey, perhaps, you've forgotten. You simply forgot that this is who you are. We don't need to know how this process works, but it simply is the case that what you think about, you will transform into in your experience. It's undeniable. It's an undeniable fact. Your energy signature, your energy literally creates who you are, the types of experiences that you'll have, and the entire paradigm of your existence is going to dictate how your life plays out. Right? And if you start subscribing to belief systems from the outside world that do not resonate for you, you're basically just pulled into like a hive mind of consciousness that you never really intended for. It's like you ever see those like in an ocean, when you see like a bunch of, there's like hundreds of fish that all swim in perfect synchronicity. If one fish tries to break out of that pattern, the fish will kind of pull them back in, kind of like crabs in a bucket. So if you're stuck in that collective pendulum, if imagine like you're that fish, if you start thinking about a different thing that you want to be, of course, that entire collective consciousness of that fish, let's say you're the fish, I know it sounds funny, but I think it's a good analogy, will start to pull you back. So then most people don't, because all these pendulums exist. There's bigger collective consciousnesses. There's a collective consciousness where there's bigger pendulums, bigger waves of consciousness where it's harder to break out. And there's smaller, more concise ones. There's like smaller circles that perhaps are more in alignment with who you prefer to be. But the stronger the pull is to that collective consciousness that perhaps you're still linked to and attached to, it's going to feel like it's harder to shift into a different version of you. So this is why persistence is important. And I don't necessarily mean persistence in the sense that you force yourself to take action that you don't feel is aligned to your goal. I'm saying you keep your goal persistent in the sense that you keep thinking about who you want to be and trusting that just through that process of continually putting your attention more on who you want to be, you keep putting your attention on it again and again and again, you'll naturally become it. And anything that pulls you away, you just perceive that as simply something that is out of alignment with your goal. And it can become very simple. Your life can become simplified. Very, very simple. It's not complicated. It's just that when you're connected to this hive mind of collective consciousness where people don't have independent thinking anymore, they're basically their energy system, their entire energy field is not individual anymore. It's a collection of other energies that also are not individuals, and they also lost their sovereignty. And then it's just this sort of, it's almost like you're wearing, I made this analogy before, it's like you're wearing, not only are you wearing too many clothes on a hot summer's day, you're not even wearing your own clothes. It's like somebody gave you those clothes and then you don't even like the style of those clothes. You're wearing like somebody else's clothes, they lended it to you and you don't even like it. You're just kind of wearing it because you believe that you have to and it feels good, but you don't even like it. It's like you're wearing this mask. That's what it means to not understand the inner psychology of your mind. And of course, you're going to have a very, very, very difficult time manifesting the type of experience that you want when you're wearing somebody else's clothes, because you're not representing who you are in a way that honors your preference of life. You're walking around and you're just not even being who you really want to be. And so, of course, it's going to be difficult to attract similar people that you are genuinely attracted to because you're not even being who you want to be. If you're embodying all this energy and you're wearing somebody else's clothes, not to mention that you don't even want to be wearing that hoodie because it's 30 degrees outside Celsius, perhaps, I don't know where you're from. Is it Celsius? Is it Fahrenheit? Well, it's too hot outside. You're wearing somebody else's clothes. It's too hot outside. And then, of course, you're wondering, why can't I manifest the person that I like? Why can't I manifest more money? Why? It's like because you're not even being who you really want to be. At some point, it becomes hilariously and comically obvious when you become conscious and you start remembering that it's like, oh yeah, for who knows how long, I've been running around in fear thinking that I wanted to play all these roles that I just forgot that I didn't have to play. You were sucked into almost like somebody else's reality. But I don't even like to say it in that way. Because actually what's happening is that you're sucked into somebody else's reality, but they're also sucked into your reality, and they don't want to be in your reality either. So it's not this victim mindset where it's like, oh, somebody's controlling me. It's like, no, it's two people that have both given away their power, that believe that they are not free, and they're both believing they have to control each other. But you can drop this entire paradigm and you can be with individuals that are both individuals and you both choose to be together versus two people that believe they have to be together, and I'm talking any kind of relationship here, and they don't even resonate with each other's frequencies. So the understanding here that I want to share with you is that you need to start to take ownership over the type of person and identity that you embody in your life, and this is absolutely critical to feeling free and you having the type of experience that you want and attracting the individuals that you want in your life. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you is to understand that when you transform, okay, when you transform into something else, your ego is going to die. That's what I want to share with you. Your ego is going to die. Your old sense of self is going to die to shreds. And I don't mean that it's going to feel like horrible and it's going to feel painful. You might feel some negative emotion perhaps coming up if you perceive it in that way, and some of the old reality coming up, and you're going to mourn a little bit of the old self. But what I'm saying is that it's going to feel very, very weird. It's going to feel like you're dying. It's going to feel like you're dying because you're literally becoming something else. I want you to really understand this. If you're serious about developing who you are and manifesting your reality, I want you to understand that a part of you is literally going to die. That's what's going to happen. It has to, because you can't have everything in life. If you want your individuality, sacrifice is the case. And I don't mean sacrifice where it feels like a sacrifice. It's not going to feel like a sacrifice necessarily because you've gotten everything you needed from that previous frequency. But if I'm going to use that word, then that's the word. It is, in a way, you're letting go of one thing to have something else. That is the nature of transformation. So what I want you to understand in terms of the inner psychology of your mind and manifesting your reality doing it is to understand that when you transform into something else, your ego dies. And not only does some part of you die, that's not just what I mean. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. When you really start developing yourself, and this is why I believe right now at this timing in my life, that self-development and human development and being who you want to be is the ultimate spiritual path. Anytime I've seeked and I was looking for answers in my life, my spirituality actually got lessened and I felt less connected to my spirituality. I felt less connected to my source. When I started to drop concepts of seeking and I decided to be simply who I wanted to be, what happened was that I regained my power and my connection to the source and what you could call my spirituality. Why is this the case? Because I realized that I'm going to share the final 2 points into one here. So the second thing that I want to share with you that I've already shared is that when you transform, your ego dies. But what I want you to understand is that I feel like a lot of people in the spiritual communities have this belief that there's reality and then there's the ego. Right? There's real life and then there's ego. There's a spiritual path and then there's ego. But actually, what if it wasn't like that? What if the ego is not such a bad thing, and to fully embody the ego and to integrate the ego, what if that was the most spiritual thing that you could do? Because the thing is that if we're going to talk about ego here, I've noticed that dishonoring the ego creates more ego. And I don't think that's a coincidence. If you try to judge the ego for being ego, or judge others for having an ego, you have a very big ego and you're very arrogant. You're very arrogant and you dishonor a lot of people and you start doing things that are very dishonorable and you start stealing and you start being weird and you give people weird energy and you're a dishonorable human. You don't honor yourself and you don't honor the fact that life is consistent of relationships. Your entire life is a connection of relationships. You are interconnected with everything around you in your environment. And if you think that you're going to run away from that, that is the ego talking. So what I'm trying to say here is that this lower self that people talk about and this higher self, I think that the ultimate goal of the universe is to merge them into one. So it's like if you try to run away from your lower self, you're going to have problems in your life. If you try to run away from the fact that there's more possibilities to embody in your life, you're also going to have many problems in your life. It's something like Alan Watts talked about. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Do you move forward? Well, if you don't move forward, you're kind of stuck in your life. Now, if you try to stay stuck in your life, can you completely stop moving at all? You're also kind of stuck too in a way. That's also problematic. So if you try to do nothing, you're screwed. If you try to only do, you're screwed. But if you find this middle path where you merge the lower self with the higher self, then what begins to happen, and this is what I want to conclude the video with, is your ego is really going to die, because you realize that in a way, the ego doesn't even exist. The ego is a concept that we've created to run away from the natural transformation of endless expansion and desire. And so when you create a concept of the ego, it means that you've forgotten that, and it's just as simple as that. And we needed to create this concept of spirituality and seeking and spiritual awakening in order to kind of come back to our roots of simply the fact that the ego and the universe are one thing. And that you're always going to have desires, and to dishonor those desires is always going to be problematic, is always going to have problems. And so what I'm really sharing with you in this video is to understand that when you start to honor the fact that you always want something and to desire that and to own that, what begins to happen is that you, regain your power. You regain your power and you come back into alignment with who you truly are. And with that, I conclude this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details to work with me are going to be down below. Also, stay tuned for my book called The Power of Choice, coming up very, very soon. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.